I would like to introduce Admiral Jerry Achenbach, Superintendent of Great Lakes Maritime Academy, for his opening remarks.
Can you hear me? Mic is not on. I'll speak up. Good morning, faculty, members of the maritime community, descendants of Great Lakes sailors, and cadets of the Great Lakes Maritime Academy. While today's ceremony is focused on the Edmund Fitzgerald, mic working? No. All right. November also marks the anniversary of the loss of the SS Bradley, which sank in 1958, and the loss of 33 of 35 crew members. Today, I believe we are joined by Mr. Bader. Mr. Bader may be the last living former crewmate of the Bradley. This month is a sacred yet sorrowful time on the Great Lakes. It's when the lakes shed their gentle summer facade and remind us of their true, untamable nature. And on this day, our gaze turns, as it always must, towards a single indelible date, November 10, 1975. 50 years ago, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald vanished from the face of Lake Superior, taking with her 29 souls and leaving behind a mystery that still echoes in the deepest trenches of the water. The Edmund Fitzgerald was not just a ship. She was a legend long before she became a relic. Launched in 1958, she was the undisputed queen of the lakes. The largest ship of her kind, a triumph of American industry stretching over 729 feet. She was a titan that hauled iron ore through the locks and across the vast inland seas, the very lifeblood of the nation's steel mills. But a ship is nothing without its crew, and the 29 men who sailed with Captain Ernest M. McSorley were not adventurers or hobbyists. They were masters of their craft, professional mariners. They were engineers, mates, oilers, cooks, deckhands, and one cadet, GLMA's David Weiss. All of these men understood the language of the wind, the texture of the fog, the ominous sound of water slapping against a steel hull in the darkness. They were seasoned veterans who navigated the brutal realities of the longest, harshest shipping season in the world. Cadets, think of them as you study for your license exams and practice your seamanship. The crew of the Edmund Fitzgerald represents the pinnacle of the calling you are pursuing. Their devotion to their work, their implicit trust in one another, and their unwavering professionalism were anchors of their lives. Today's memorial is not just for the lost, it is for the spirit of the entire Great Lakes fleet, whose crews continue day in and day out to move the raw materials that build our world, often fighting the same relentless adversary, the weather. The voyage began routinely, carrying 26,000 tons of taconite pellets from Superior, Wisconsin, bound for Detroit. But routine is a fragile thing on the Great Lakes, especially in November. As they crossed Superior, a violent low-pressure system descended, generating one of the worst storms in recorded history, a true gale of November. Winds ramped up to over 70 miles per hour, generating waves reported to be 25, even 35 feet high. The lake was no longer a highway. It was a hungry, churning beast. The radio traffic from the Edmund Fitzgerald tells a story of increasing peril. A few broken vent covers, minor damage, a slight list, and the crucial loss of her radar. Captain McSorley, a man known for his unflappable calm and decades of experience, communicated his concerns, but never panicked. He was fighting to keep his ship alive. At 7:10 p.m., Captain McSorley's final transmission was haunting in its brevity. We are holding our own. 10 minutes later, the Fitzgerald simply disappeared. No distress signal. No time for a single lifeboat to be deployed. No wreckage or bodies were found in the immediate aftermath. The Fitzgerald sank so quickly, so violently, that the 29 professional mariners aboard, who lived and breathed ship safely, had no warning. The lake had swallowed her hull. The loss of the Edmund Fitzgerald forced the maritime community to confront a terrifying reality, that even the biggest, strongest, and best crewed ships are mere matchsticks against the unrestrained fury of Lake Superior. The investigation that followed could never definitively say why she sank. The mystery, however, is not the most important part of her legacy. The enduring lesson is this: humility and preparedness. For you cadets, the Fitzgerald is a living case study in the curriculum of the sea. First, respect the lakes. The Great Lakes are merciless. They demand meticulous preparation, constant vigilance, and absolute professionalism. You must be students of the weather, masters of your ship's stability, and never, never complacent. Second, commitment to crew. When the Fitzgerald went down, the Arthur M. Anderson, battered and listing itself, immediately turned back into the 35-foot waves to search for survivors. That is the bond of the maritime profession. That is the commitment to look after your fellow mariner regardless of the cost. That is the standard you must carry. And third, the call of duty. Every man on the Fitzgerald stayed at his post. They were working until the very last second trying to save the ship. The duty of a mariner is a sacred trust. It means facing danger head on, not running from it. Today we remember Captain Ernest McSorley, the steady hand, Chief Engineer George Hull, who kept the heartbeat of the ship operating, and every single man, from First Mate John Peden to Deck Cadet David Weiss. They are not ghosts of history, they are the honored ancestors of our trade. They sailed, they worked, and they were lost. We will keep the watch for them. We will carry their dedication forward, and we will never forget the 29 souls of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. Today, we will also ring the bell in memory of two Great Lakes Maritime Academy cadets we lost over the past year, Cadet Fisher Bogard and Cadet Titus Lee Johns. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral. Today's speaker is Captain Gerard Pennell. Mr. Pennell is a 1986 graduate of SUNY Maritime Academy.
Good afternoon. It's both an honor and a solemn responsibility to join you today on the 50th anniversary of the loss of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. I stand here on behalf of Captain Willie Barrere, President of AMO, and on behalf of the men and women of American Maritime Officers to pay tribute, not only to the 29 mariners lost on that fateful night, but to the enduring legacy they leave behind. I would like to begin by thanking the Great Lakes Maritime Academy for hosting today's commemoration. This institution plays a vital role in preparing the next generation of U.S. and Great Lakes maritime officers, men and women who follow in the footsteps of those we honor today. I also want to recognize the presence and continued commitment of the United States Coast Guard, whose service and sacrifice on the Great Lakes remain unmatched. Your dedication to mariner safety and search and rescue operations has long been a pillar of safety and security in this region. To our colleagues in the Lakes Carriers Association and the Great Lakes Maritime Task Force, and the leaders of the company who operate vessels across the Great Lakes, as well as fellow representatives from organized labor, thank you for your enduring partnership. Our industry's strength lies in its unity, and it's only together across labor, government, and management that we continue to honor our past while advancing towards a safer and more resilient future. On November 10, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald was just 17 miles from the safety of Whitefish Bay when it vanished from radar. No distress call was sent, no survivors were found. The storm that struck Lake Superior that night was brutal. Hurricane-force winds and waves exceeding 30 feet. It tested the limit of every man, every rivet, and every inch of steel on that vessel. Among those on board were American Maritime Officers members, licensed deck and engineering officers who served with the highest professionalism and skill. Like every mariner, they understood the risks, and like every mariner, they sailed anyway. Today we do not gather in grief alone, we gather in remembrance, in respect, and in renewed commitment. We remember the names of the 29 lost. We respect the gravity of what it means to work these waters. And we commit ourselves through policy, education, and vigilance to preventing such a tragedy from ever happening again. This anniversary is not only about the past, it's about the future. It's about the cadets assembled here today, preparing to carry forward a proud maritime tradition. It is about continued investment in training, safety technology, and emergency preparedness. It's about listening to the hard-earned lessons left behind by the Fitzgerald's crew and ensuring they guide every voyage that follows. To the families of the 29 men, your loved ones are not forgotten. Their memory lives on in the steel of every ship, in the curriculum of every maritime classroom, and in the watchful eyes of every mariner who looks to the horizon and remembers what's at stake. May the legacy of the Edmund Fitzgerald continue to guide us, not simply as a story of loss, but as a call to action, a reminder of why we must always put safety first, why we must support and train the professionals who crew our vessels, and why we must never take lightly the power of the Great Lakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. We will now recite the final vessel roll call of the Edmund Fitzgerald and carry out a ringing of the bell in remembrance of each crew member. Captain Ernest M. McSorley, Master. John H. McCarthy, First Mate. James A. Pratt, Second Mate. Michael E. Armstrong, Third Mate. George J. Hull, Chief Engineer. Edward F. Binden, First Assistant Engineer. Thomas E. Edwards, Second Assistant Engineer. Russell G. Haskell, Second Assistant Engineer. Oliver J. Buck Shampoo, Third Assistant Engineer. Frederick J. Beecher, Porter. Thomas Benson, Oiler. Thomas D. Borgson, AB Maintenance Man. Nolan F. Church, Porter. Watchman. Bruce L. Hudson, Deckhand. Alan G. Kalman, Second Cook. Gordon F. McLeland, Wiper. Joseph W. Mazes, Special Maintenance Man. Eugene W. O'Brien, Wheelsman. Carl A. Peckel, Watchman. John J. Poviech, Wheelsman. Robert C. Rafferty, Steward. Paul Ripa, Deckhand. John D. Simmons, Wheelsman. William J. Spangler, Watchman. Mark A. Thomas, Deckhand. Ralph G. Walton, Oiler. David E. Weiss, Cadet. Blaine H. Wilhelm, Oiler. Over the past few years, the Great Lakes Maritime Academy suffered the tragic loss of 2 cadets. We now ring the bell for them. Cadet Fisher Bogard and Cadet Titus Lee Johns. We will now ring the bell one additional time in remembrance of all mariners lost at sea, whenever or wherever their final voyage took place. To conclude today's service, we will play the traditional Mariners Hymn. Following the hymn, carnations will be available on the pier near the flagpole for those who want to offer their remembrance. This concludes the 50th Annual Mariners Memorial. Thank you for attending.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to join us in the atrium for some hot coffee and conversation. Thank you for attending on behalf of the International Shipmasters Association, the Great Lakes Maritime Academy Alumni Association, and the American Merchant Officers Union. We welcome you and thank you for coming.